Yeah, while everyone was focused on Trump's trade war and its impact on markets, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has accidentally exposed China and Russia's secret Bitcoin plan. The massive $182 billion firm VanEck dropped a report literally 48 hours ago exposing how these two superpowers were using Bitcoin for global trade. You heard that right. Let's hear from the man who is openly talking about a global monetary reset and his recent statements on Bitcoin, Trump's right-hand man, Scott Bessent himself. Let's check out the clip, and then we'll talk about it.
I think as an economic historian and someone who's been in markets for 40 years, I actually think I'm starting to look like it now. I think we're also at a unique moment geopolitically, and I could see in the next few years that we are going to have some kind of a grand global economic reordering. It was something on the equivalent of a new Bretton Woods, or if you want to go back, like something back to the steel agreements or the Treaty of Versailles. There's a very good chance that we are going to have to have that over the next 4 years, and I'd like to be a part of it. I've studied this. I think
so. It was unclear whether we were going to exempt gold from tariffs, which I believe we have. So there was a big move out of vaults in Switzerland, out of vaults in London to get it into New York. And look, that there are a lot of different stores of value over time. Bitcoin's becoming a store of value. Gold has historically been a store of value. I think what's interesting is, where do we see the gold demand coming from? A huge amount is from China.
Yes.
Where they, as I said, they're in the middle of an economic recession / depression. People don't trust the Chinese currency because they have capital controls. There are 1.4 billion Chinese who all want to get their money out, and they won't let them.
So absolutely crazy. Tons to break down. Before we get into it, I'm here joined with my legendary co-host, who's always optimistic, Optimus Fields, in the co-host seat today. Again, Scott Bessent isn't the only one who's saying this. We have Nick Bhatia, incredibly brilliant Bitcoiner. He's written some amazing books. He says, all caps, global reordering 1 hour ago. And then he follows up that post with Mar-a-Lago Agreement 2025, Bretton Woods replacement. I mean, those are some massive, massive words. But let's jump straight into the VanEck report. I think this is a smoking gun, absolutely historic. It's by Matt Siegel, head of digital assets research. He says the Trump administration's April 2nd tariff package targeting imports from China and the EU has reignited global trade tensions and increased the risk of monetary and geopolitical fragmentation. Bitcoin initially dropped from 85K to the 81K range after the announcement and sold off further over the weekend, but has still outperformed the NASDAQ across every major time frame. 1 week, 1 month, year to date over the past 1, 2, 3, 5, and 10 years. While slower growth alone isn't bullish for Bitcoin, the policy response might be. If tariffs weigh on GDP without triggering a fresh inflation spike, the Fed may have to scoop to cut rates, reintroducing the liquidity conditions under which Bitcoin has historically excelled, aka money printer go burr. At the same time, the weaponization of trade and financial infrastructure continues to drive interest in neutral settlement rails. Here's the signal from this paragraph. That interest is no longer theoretical. We've been saying this is going to happen for many, many years now. If you push your global adversaries or the US, like, the whole sanction thing against Russia, right? Essentially taking Russia out of the euro dollar kind of financial system when the war in Ukraine started, you can't blame Russia for seeking an alternative. And I mean, same goes with China as well. Russia and China obviously don't feel good using the dollar because the US government could essentially sanction it. They could weaponize the dollar for their own benefit. They're obviously incentivized to find a neutral alternative monetary network for better or worse. So it goes on to say, China and Russia have reportedly begun settling energy transactions in Bitcoin and other digital assets. Bolivia has announced plans to import electricity using crypto. And French energy utility EDF is exploring whether it can mine Bitcoin with surplus electricity currently exported to Germany. These are early signs that Bitcoin is evolving from a speculative asset into a functional monetary tool, particularly in economies looking to bypass the dollar and reduce exposure to US-led financial systems. It goes on to say, indicators to watch. Investors should watch the evolving path of Fed policy. Dovish shifts in rate expectations and rising liquidity are historically positive for Bitcoin. The US dollar index remains a key signal. Any sustained dollar weakness may bolster the Bitcoin as hedge narrative, particularly in an environment of geopolitical fragmentation. Importantly, while 10-year Treasury yields surged on Monday, Bitcoin's reaction was notably subdued. Unlike in 2022, rising yields did not trigger a wave of forced liquidations or volatility in crypto markets, suggesting that BTC may be decoupling from old macro sensitivities. Bitcoin ETF flows and on-chain activity also matter. Despite recent volatility, US-listed spot Bitcoin ETFs are still net positive by 600 million year to date. With renewed inflows in late March, finally watch for retaliatory moves from China or the EU, especially those aimed at bypassing dollar-based systems, which could accelerate adoption of crypto as an alternative settlement layer. I mean, we've been saying this for years. It's just common sense. It is the game theory playing out. So while all this tariff madness is happening, you know who's winning? Bitcoin is winning. This is something that we read from Max Kaiser's X yesterday. He said, in a global trade war, Bitcoin wins. And it seems like the head of research and Van Eck agrees. And also, did you hear the Treasury Secretary? That is night and day compared to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. The dude's literally a Bitcoiner. We know he owns up to $500,000 in Bitcoin or exposure to Bitcoin ETFs, and he's literally saying that Bitcoin is a store of value. Simultaneously, that clip that we played from you guys was really fascinating because that was before Trump won the presidency. That was before he won the presidency. He's won the presidency. Scott Bessent is U.S. Treasury Secretary, and he's telling you his intentions. He's telling you exactly what he believes is going to happen. This is Bretton Woods 2.0. This is Trump Woods. I am totally just made that up, but you guys get the general gist of it. And you guys have to remember, Trump is extremely pro-Bitcoin. So in a global monetary reshuffling or reset, the person who's driving that is literally pro-Bitcoin. The main driver, which is President Trump, and then his right-hand man, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, is also extremely pro-Bitcoin. Where do you think Bitcoin's going to fit into all this? They just announced a strategic Bitcoin reserve a couple months ago. They literally posted it from the X account. We want to make the U.S. the strategic Bitcoin capital of the world. I mean, this is like the day-to-day price shifts are noise. If you're paying attention to the signal, I'm telling you, I've told you guys this yesterday. From a news perspective, I've been in Bitcoin for 9 years. This has been the most bullish news cycle in Bitcoin's history or what I've ever experienced. I've never seen something like this. From a price perspective, clearly it's lagging. But as like that article pointed out, as soon as the Fed changes its monetary policy, which I believe the Trump administration is trying to force upon them, and they make money printer go burr, Bitcoin is literally going to go to the moon. and there's no regulatory hurdles in its way. We actually have a post for you guys, a Truth Social post, where Trump is actually attacking the Federal Reserve. He's actually attacking Jerome Powell. But we're going to get to that during the culture segment later on in today's show. Anyways, Opti, absolutely historic news today with Scott Bessent coming in hot. What are your thoughts on this, my bro?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying this for a long time that we are eventually going to get to like a petrosat system. And this is when we know Bitcoin completely wins, is when we see energy or oil being settled in Bitcoin. And the fact that we're seeing this happen right now, I think is one of these very huge stories that kind of went under the radar. Obviously, everyone's looking at TradFi right now. We're all looking at the macro markets. We're all macro experts now, or at least trying to become macro experts, because Bitcoin is entering a different era here. But I think this is absolutely one of the bigger news stories that came out, that, you know, some people are saying that Bessent planned this. A lot of people are saying on Twitter, you know, this was Trump's plan originally. Even Trump came out and said, what did he say yesterday? He said something like, we didn't pause the tariffs because of the bond markets. And yet I think a lot of us are like, they totally paused the tariffs because of the bond market seemingly blowing up. But whether this was accidental or planned, I think this is insane. Like, what we're seeing right here is nuts. And this is, I think, what we're going to be seeing moving further along into the future is like, yes, they have been putting a lot of pressure on China. We all saw now, I think the tariffs, he announced 125% tariffs yesterday. I think the math this morning came out, it's going to be basically 145% tariffs on China. So China's basically in a pickle right now. They need the U.S. markets to essentially export all of their consumers or their products and their products, electronics, etc., to the U.S. Without the U.S. market, China's absolutely wrecked. And we're seeing similar things in the EU as well. So like we have, you know, what does it mean? We have all the cards right now. And I know a lot of Bitcoiners like Safety out there has been saying, and even like Thomas Sowell and people have been pulling up, I believe it was Milton Friedman, classic clips about how tariffs are bad. But we are seeing some secondary effects play out right now that are very interesting in regards to Bitcoin. Obviously, in the past, there was no escape valve. There was no pressure relief valve like Bitcoin. And now we're seeing it. And yes, like people are saying in the chat, great, now our enemies are using Bitcoin. Guys, we all know Bitcoin is for enemies. Bitcoin is for anyone. Anyone that needs a permissionless, censorship-resistant settlement rails is going to get to Bitcoin. And Nico's been saying this for, I don't even know how long now on the show, over a year and a half, about that sanctions don't work in this new Bitcoin system. And now we're seeing that the tariffs don't actually work as well. Sailor's been tweeting, you know, there's no tariffs on Bitcoin. And I think people are starting to wake up to the fact that, like this Bitcoin thing is not just internet nerd money. Like this is the new macro asset. Like this is going to be the key player that is going to usher in the Bitcoin standard or a more Bitcoin centric future in the economy. And I think this is like that point where you look back, you know, it's like the Big Short or margin call moment where you get that one signal and you're like, oh shit, things are about to get really crazy right now. And for us Bitcoiners, we've been saying this for a long time. Once you have the understanding of Bitcoin, you have the fundamentals and you can work from first principles, you are able to predict where the future is going. Like we're not all mind readers, where, you know, we don't have crystal balls, but you are already essentially, as I've been saying, like waiting at the finish line. Yes, Bitcoin hasn't essentially won yet, but we can see where the ball is going. And that's how you really, really put yourself in a position to win, is because everyone else is working on an old system. If you are a Bitcoiner, if you're all in on Bitcoin, if you understand the economics around Bitcoin and the global game theory, you knew that this was going to happen. So once we see more nations start to settle their energy and their trades in Bitcoin, it's a totally different game. So look, they put pressure on China around the bond markets, you know, all this tariffs, we're essentially trying to get more people to buy treasuries. But it seems like people are starting to end up in the only store of values that really matter, which is, of course, gold. I don't know if you guys watched the gold price this morning, but it's back up to all-time highs. And yeah, Bitcoin's kind of retracing a little bit. But in the face of all this crazy economic uncertainty, Bitcoin is holding up very strong, and more people are starting to look towards Bitcoin as an actual alternative to the fiat dollar system or the fiat monetary system we find ourselves in. So very interesting times. As I've been saying this last week, or rather since Friday, this is the most fun I've had in Bitcoin in a long time, not just like covering the news, but just in Bitcoin, because it's like what we just heard from Vanek is something Bitcoiners have been theorizing for a long time. And we've been hearing some trickles of information and rumors about this happening. Well, now theory is reality. So this is very interesting times for Bitcoin, for Bitcoiners, and for the global macro landscape.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good point. Guys, if you guys are enjoying the show so far, we're on the verge of breaking 100 likes. Help us break 150 likes before we hit 20 minutes on the live stream. So again, if you guys are enjoying today's live show, make sure to smash that like button. Really, really helps push this content with the algos. Anyways, guys, we have a jam-packed show for you guys today. We're going to be talking about multiple things. We're going to be talking about the, what's the name of the CEO of Bitwise, right? Opti?
Matt Hogan.
Matt Hogan. He has some incredible takes. We're going to take a look at him, what he had to say. He was in the legacy media regarding Bitcoin, regarding the kind of just the general kind of landscape. Bitcoin is a macro asset. You know, it kind of caught Opti and I a little bit off guard, right? We've been just talking about politics because we were in election season for a long time. We were talking about the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Now that's over. That's behind us. Now what's in front of us, obviously the tariffs have popped up. Bitcoin is clearly acting like a macro asset. So we're covering that as much as we can. So it's going to be a great show. We already have 1,700 of you guys watching live. If you guys are enjoying today's show so far, make sure to smash that like button. I also had this really, really interesting thread for you guys. It's coming from someone called Virtual Bacon. And he makes the case that essentially we are seeing an elongated cycle. So instead of the cycle ending at the end of 2025, which is what it would normally do, he's making the case that the cycle is going to end. Potentially it can go into 2026. But what I've learned from this cycle the most is that no one has any idea what Bitcoin is going to do. That's what I've learned from the cycle the most, and it's never been as true as it is today. And of course, during the news segment, we're going to be talking about President Trump's warning or heads up or tip to everybody before he did a 180 on his tariffs, before he froze his tariffs for the rest of the world. He keeps doubling and tripling down on China, but essentially he reversed the tariffs on the rest of the world, and the NASDAQ pumped 10%. That doesn't happen. That is not normal. The Bitcoin price recovered. It went back to $82,000. So we're going to be covering that. We're going to be showing that to you guys. This is uncharted territory. We're in completely uncharted territory. Also, seems like BlackRock is changing their custodian. They're moving some of their Bitcoin from Coinbase and they're moving it to another custodian. Now, what's really interesting about this as well is that there were some rumors earlier on in the year that BlackRock didn't feel comfortable with Coinbase as a custodian. And those rumors were shut down. They said, no, that's not true. That's a lie. Well, I mean, it seems like they are moving some of it, so there must have been some type of truth into it. Now, is the motivation? It was the motivation that Coinbase acted incorrectly. Who knows? But we'll show you guys the news, the information, and then you guys will let us know, I guess. And of course, during the culture segment, Opti has something really, really awesome lined up for you guys. Opti, what are we going to talk about during the culture segment?
Yeah, well, today is inflation numbers day, so we'll cover some inflation stuff, and then it really remember how we've been kind of speculating that there's a war between the Trump administration and the Federal Reserve, Jay Powell versus Scott Bessent, and it seems like we have some more receipts on that might exactly be what's playing out right now. So we'll cover that. We're going to go kind of, this is a little more macro cultural stuff, but I will reel in some Bitcoin into this. So, Nico, I do want to say something that I think we should say, especially for the audio listeners. There's some really good comments in the chat real quick. One of them was hold on, I'm looking for it. All right, this is I think like the takeaway, and we'd be remiss if we didn't hit this as well. So Alex Mansfield goes, Bessent understands Bitcoin, therefore he must be positioning the U.S. And then other people saying like if Bessent wasn't involved, then I would doubt that this was planned. And I think this is the big takeaway. Like what we're seeing from the US right now, yes, everything's TradFi. Yes, it's all about treasuries right now. But I think behind the scenes, if this isn't taking place, if the US isn't positioning themselves to acquire more Bitcoin, and we have some more receipts from Beau as well saying we're going to make America the Bitcoin capital of the world. This is the big elephant in the room. If the U.S. is not positioning themselves to acquire more Bitcoin and be actually the Bitcoin superpower of the world, a lot of this stuff it's going to just recreate what we've been seeing. So hopefully we'll get more news on this one. Anyways, Nico, keep going.
Yeah, it's going to be a great show, everybody. So bunker down, smash that like button. Again, help us break 200 likes. I'm moving up the like goal within the first 30 minutes of the show. It's going to be a loaded show. Guys, we're going to hit the numbers segment. We'll be right back. But before we do that, I do want to give an extremely special shout out to Simply Bitcoin's lead sponsor. Simply Bitcoin wouldn't be possible without our partners. I want to give a shout out to the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack, bitcoinwell.com. What makes it the best place to build your Bitcoin stack? Because it's a self-custody by default Bitcoin on-ramp. What does that mean? That means that when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, as soon as the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. You put in your email address after visiting bitcoinwell.com, takes 2 to 5 minutes to get signed up, and bada bing, bada boom, you're ready to buy Bitcoin. Also, if you're a higher net worth individual looking to buy $50,000 worth of Bitcoin or more, check out Bitcoin Well Infinite. Invest in Bitcoin, preserve your wealth. You'll have a dedicated representative. You can book a call today by going to bitcoinwell.com/OTC. And again, you'll be able to pick on the calendar when you want to book a call with them, and you're going to have an executive Bitcoin advisor, and they'll walk you through the whole process, whether it's self-custody, whether it's just your Bitcoin and your kind of financial planning. These guys will walk you through it. So go check out bitcoinwell.com/OTC today. Also, every time you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you earn something called Bitcoin Well points, and you could redeem those points towards the Bitcoin Wishing Well contest. We're doing that live for you guys right now. Get your Lightning wallets ready. First person to scan the QR code has won 210 sats. Every time you play this contest, you have an opportunity to win up to 1 million Satoshis. If you use promo code SIMPLY, BTC, or go to bitcoinwell.com/simplybitcoin, you get 3 tosses into the Bitcoin Wishing Well for an opportunity to win up to 1 million sats every single toss. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back. We're going to hit the numbers segment, and then we're going to unpack a whole lot of content. Smash the like button. We'll be right back.
I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Stampseed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed words really secure? Stampseed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of writing them down on paper. Don't do that. Paper sucks. You want to literally stamp your seed into this plate of titanium. Your words are actually stamped into the metal plate with this hammer. So once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and your pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and most importantly, because this is generational wealth, time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin for the long haul. I mean, here is the plate that they crushed. They put in water, they put a blowtorch to it, and as you can see, the words have survived. Stamp your seed on Stampseed. And you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their store. Head over to stampseed.com today.
All right, everybody, we are back. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $79,360. Block height, 891,886. 891,806. Sats per dollar, 1,260. Market cap, 1.58 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 7.05%. Percentage issued, 94.52%. Decline from all-time high, negative 27.3%. Realized monetary inflation, 0.87%. In the grand scheme of things, we are just getting started. I think the question on everybody's mind is, are the cycles done? Are they extended? I ran into this thread yesterday when I was scrolling on X. I think we all do it at this point. And it was by someone of the name Virtual Bacon. And I didn't really look into, what Virtual Bacon does and whatever, but I thought the thread was interesting. So he starts it off with, I was wrong about Bitcoin. My original plan was to sell Bitcoin in 2025 at 200K. Now, what's really interesting about that 200K, 250K number is that the CEO of Bitwise also said that same number.
There has been so much fundamentally positive news, and it's just been buried sort of in the background. We've caused ourselves to ignore it. There's the strategic Bitcoin reserve. There's the SEC pulling back on essentially every lawsuit. There's progress on stablecoin legislation. There's talk of market structure legislation. There was the White House crypto summit. These are game-changing positive developments that should put Bitcoin trading at $150,000 or $200,000 today. It's been suppressed because in the short term, this overhang of the economic uncertainty is weighing on the markets. I think if that is released, we're at new all-time highs quickly, and we're on our way to where I think we'll be at the end of the year, which is Bitcoin 200,000. So I think there's been this sort of suppression of really good news. If that suppression is removed, I think it's a coiled spring. So in that scenario.
So that is Matt Hogan. He's the CEO of Bitwise. So we keep hearing this 200K, 250K number. That's like, the general consensus. Some heavyweights are throwing their names behind it. And Virtual Break-In, he says, by the way, shout out to the live stream. We just broke 2,000 live viewers across YouTube and X. Of course, shout out to the Rumble audience as well. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, smash that like button, share the video. Really, really helps with the algo. So let's get through with the thread. I was wrong about Bitcoin. My original plan was to sell BTC in 2025 at 200K. But price action, liquidity, and macro conditions change, and so did my outlook. Here's what I expect next for Bitcoin and how I'm adjusting. Let's start with the key change. Bitcoin is not weak, it's consolidating. We're near a likely bottom around current levels, but don't expect a sharp bounce. The correction is healthy, but price still needs time to chop and reset. No panic, no euphoria, just patience. Technically, Bitcoin remains bullish long term. We're holding above the 50-week SMA and the same level that supported price in summer 2024. Higher highs and higher lows are intact. Previous top, 108K, current low, 75K, key support, 50-week SMA. This is a textbook bull market structure. Zooming in and short-term signals are flashing caution. The death cross is nearing on the daily chart. Historically, this means more chop, 2 to 3 months of sideways price, then recovery. Golden cross equals breakout. No need to catch the bottom, let the structure reset. But this isn't just about charts. Fundamentals matter more. We're entering a liquidity air pocket that could last 2 to 6 months. Why? April is tax season equals sell pressure. US debt ceiling, TGA refill equals liquidity drain. QT still active, Fed hasn't pivoted. QE can't start until rates hit zero. Recession odds equals 61% by October. We're not there yet. So how does liquidity return? Watch for stealth QE. Arthur Hayes points to the Fed slowing QT, letting mortgage-backed securities roll off, and replacing them with treasury purchases. This isn't full-blown money printing, but it's still a bullish shift. That pivot could start by mid-2025. That's the general consensus about the Fed pivot. Let's clear up a major misconception. M2 isn't the same as global liquidity. Most use M2 to call for bull runs, but That only works for Bitcoin, not for altcoins. I mean, this part does not really interest us at Simply. But anyways, it goes on to say, so what now? I'm accumulating Bitcoin between 85K and 76K. The bottom line is 76K. No weekly close below that, and we hold. This is still a standard bull market correction. I'm not selling. I'm extending my timeline. Updated exit strategy, price target 200K plus, possibly 300K. Timeline shifted to mid 2026. Trend break, watch the 50-week SMA and not the 20-week EMA. Bitcoin is more volatile this cycle. Don't use old playbooks. This cycle isn't over. It's delayed. QE is coming. Liquidity will return. Bitcoin will move faster, longer. This correction was painful, but it's setting up more upside in 2026 than we expected in 2025. So, I mean, I don't know. But I thought it was interesting to talk about it. I read the entire thread last night. I was fascinated. I was like, oh, our audience would absolutely love it when we read it. And it's all about connecting the dots, right? So if you just saw this on itself, you could make an argument that it means a whole lot of nothing. But if you connect it with what the Bitwise CEO is saying about 200K, if you connect it to what Arthur Hayes is saying about how important just general global liquidity is to the price of Bitcoin, and if you connect it to the general consensus that the Fed is going to finish its pivot midsummer, he's basically saying the same things that a lot of these other people are saying. And I do agree with them on one fundamental level, and that's because, like, if you look at the Genesis block of Bitcoin, it literally talks about money printing. It says, Chancellor on the brink of the second bailout for banks. I think money printing and, of course, adoption, but money printing, I think that is a big component of what drives the price of Bitcoin these days. Arthur Hayes says, like, look, it's all about global liquidity. Like, is it down or is it going up? We've been in a QT environment for a while now, right? And that's kind of the reality. And I think that's why Bitcoin's price has underperformed this cycle compared to previous cycles. Now, does that mean the cycle is over? Does that mean we've peaked? Perhaps. Or does that mean that the cycle is just delayed? I mean, I would like to say it's just delayed. But maybe I'm seeing things that are not there. Could you put up that comment by our boy Vendetta in the chat? I wanted to read it. Vendetta says, there are way too many ignorant and emotional people in the market. Bitcoin is still immature. Hodl and be patient while the clueless get wrecked. I think that's some very, very good advice by Vendetta. We have Salty Apologist. He says, bottom line, bull run hasn't started. By the summer, we go ballistic. Jack Nuts says, you may as well read tea leaves, my guy. And Thomas Martinez says, let's hope so. Until then, cheap sat. So again, no one really knows. No one really knows if this cycle is off or dead. We can definitely say for certain this is uncharted territory. We've never been here. I think that has to do with the overall just general macro environment, a lot of uncertainty in the markets. Everyone has gotten every single prediction wrong this market, which is how the market should be. They generally tend to do the exact opposite of what the general consensus is. So, yeah, I mean, it is exciting times, and it does give things for me and Opti to talk about. Opti, what are your thoughts on all this, brother?
Yeah, so my first thought is, like, I want to believe. I'm in my full molder stage now. Like, I really want to believe. I really would like to see a 2026 kind of top, and then that would mean probably a lower bear market. So no longer 80, 70%, drawdowns. And that, I think, would line up to what we kind of are feeling. It's more like a gut feeling that this cycle does feel different. It, like, all the good news, the fact that Bitcoin kind of has hit the global stage now, and we're no longer just like, a dark corner on the internet. That's kind of what my feeling is. But, this is just a gut feeling. I've been wrong before. I'm open to being wrong again. Maybe we do see a rip in 2025. But this does remind me to a conversation I was having I forget who it was. I was with like Jacob and Stefan Libera and someone else, and we were at BitBlock Boom, and we were kind of trolling Stefan because we look at his Twitter and it's like, dude, Stefan, you've kind of been a wet blanket. And he's like, I've been a realist here. And the whole conversation was basically a gist of the diminishing returns meme we've been seeing for a long time. And everyone's kind of saying like diminishing returns. That seems like the consensus right now is, hey, if you look at all the cycles, it has been diminishing returns. And I do have it here. Let me pull it up for you guys. But I do like this idea that cycles are broken. It would kind of play into this idea that we are in a new paradigm here. This is a whole, like, we've entered a new era in Bitcoin. So if you look at this, which one is this? I'm super colorblind here. So what? Blue is 2012 bull run. We're still kind of lining up to potentially seeing some kind of rip. But even if we do get a blow off top, it is going to be a delayed bull run. And then, of course, which one is this green one? 2021, that one was disappointing, double top. And then, of course, the 2017, that bull run was after, or the blow off top was after the 2014 or 2013 top. So anyways, the reason I'm pulling this up is you can see here, this cycle, obviously it has seemingly been a disappointment, even though in the face of all the good news, but it does seem like we are seeing, one, maybe diminishing returns, but two, a delayed top. And if we do see a delayed top, I think it would kind of lean into a lot of the things we've been seeing in Bitcoin and we've been talking about on the show for a long time, that, hey, things are different now. And it might be that Bitcoin is kind of caught up in a bigger macro cycle right now. And that would necessarily mean that, hey, if Bitcoin does have its next blow off top, like, it would be a delayed bull run. As of now, it seems like no matter what, we are going to get a delayed blow off top. So whether that means diminishing returns here, we don't really know yet. Does that mean that we're probably going to see a delayed bull run? It's seemingly like that is the case here, that we are going to see a delayed bull run considering the old cycles. But what's the meme? All models work until they're broken, or whatever the meme is. So I'm kind of been leaning towards a delayed blow off top here. Would I like to see that go into 2026? Yes, because that would mean that we have fundamentally broken the cycle theory. I don't think cycle theory is necessarily over, but if we see a 2026 blow off top, not only would that mean a delayed bull run, but I think that would also mean probably a tampered bear market. And that would be extremely bullish in regards to Bitcoin volatility. And actually, Nico, I don't know if we're pulling it up. I don't think we are, but if we were going to, I don't want to blow the meme here, but a lot of people say that Bitcoin is too volatile. Well, in the last week, we've seen Bitcoin be less volatile than the S&P 500. So I don't know if we have that chart later, but I could pull it up here. If we might pull it up later. So I'll wait for it and then we can pull it up later. But we're starting to see different market structures now, and I think that is just a credence to this idea that Bitcoin is maturing in real time. And like all the news, especially the beginning news story, Bitcoin is started to be looked upon as a mature asset, a mature store of value. We've fundamentally entered a new era. And so the fact we have all this bullish this bullish news around Bitcoin is very interesting, considering that the price hasn't started ripping. But I think this next story we're going to talk about might lean into some of those rumors and concerns around why Bitcoin hasn't ripped, aka paper Bitcoin. So, people are saying obviously manipulated. I mean, guys, it's just simple supply demand economics. There's just more sellers than buyers right now. Let's just keep it very simple. So, like Thomas Martinez said, a truly free market is volatile.
Yeah, we got a super chat from Picasso EDF. The glitch says volatility isn't just tolerated; it's engineered. It's the perfect smoke screen for smart accumulation. Well, appreciate the $5, dude. Thank you so much. Appreciate you supporting the show, guys. We have a hell of a show lined up for you guys. We're going to be talking about how BlackRock is moving custodian, or at least moving part of their Bitcoin that was custodied with Coinbase. They moved it. It's official. The news broke. And what's really interesting, too, is when these rumors first started being talked about, me and Opti were actually covering it back in September of 2024. Some very important and well-known people in the space were actually shutting it down and saying, no, that's not true. That's just a rumor, blah, 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 blah. Well, it turns out, there was some truth to it, because why would they move it? right? Why would BlackRock move some of their custody Bitcoin? And I would say this is a good thing. You don't want just one big custodian. What about paper Bitcoin? What about rehypothecation? I had Larry Lepard and Caitlin Long on Simply Bitcoin like a year ago. And I asked them, I said, like, guys, like, what are you the most concerned about? They're like, rehypothecation. Because like the whole problem that Bitcoin solves, where gold failed was because of gold's physical characteristics, it led to a centralization of the custody of gold. The awesome part about Bitcoin is the fact that an individual can take custody of millions, billions, trillions of dollars in the comfort of their own home with a hardware wallet or with a wallet. It's not difficult to custody Bitcoin. And, or better said, it's difficult until you learn. When you learn, it's easier than sending a wire, in my opinion. So, you know, the thing that Bitcoin solves is the ability for millions upon millions of individuals to custody their wealth effectively and efficiently without the necessity of relying on an intermediary. That's what Bitcoin does. Having all these ETFs, including Saylor's stack, with one big giant custodian is going back to the trust me bro model. It's like, trust me, bro. That's what Brian Armstrong is saying. Like, we're not selling paper Bitcoin. We're not rehypothecating it. You know, these institutions, these ETFs, Saylor has the Bitcoin that they say he does. It's there in cold storage. Like, why don't they make it public? They can make it public. Like, they can make it public. I mean, El Salvador has made their reserve public. Anyone could audit El Salvador's reserve at any time. Well, why isn't that same like philosophy applied to these? It's so easy. You can do it with the Bitcoin blockchain. It's an open ledger. Why don't they do it? Anyways, we have a lot to talk about, guys. But before we jump into it, make sure to smash that like button. We just broke 557 live viewers on YouTube. We smashed through 200 likes. Help us break 300 likes by the time the show ends. So smash that like button if you guys are enjoying today's show. We'll be right back. We're going to hit the news segment.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Casa. Bitcoin security matters, but managing private keys can sometimes be complicated, especially multi-sig. What if you can secure your Bitcoin without worrying about losing a seed phrase or giving up custody? With Casa, you can completely control your Bitcoin with multi-key security, so even if one key is lost or stolen, your funds stay safe. No single point of failure, no stress. That's what I absolutely love about these guys. They make taking Bitcoin into self-custody incredibly easy with their best in industry user experience through their app. I've been personally recommending Casa for years now to my friends and family because they will get all the benefits of multi-key self-custody security without the hassle of having to learn complicated UI. And if you're thinking of one day passing on your Bitcoin to the next generation, their inheritance plan has you covered. Also, if you're a business looking to add Bitcoin to your treasury, do it the secure way with Casa for Business. To get started, go to casa.io today and get 5% off Casa Standard or Casa Premium with promo code SIMPLY. I want to give a shout out to our partner, CoinKite. If you take your Bitcoin security seriously, you'll need the best Bitcoin hardware wallet on the market to take self-custody. That's where Cold Card comes in. The Cold Card Q is the most advanced Bitcoin signing device ever made. It's got a full keyboard, larger screen, and NFC support, making air-gap signing easier than ever. It's built for power users who want the ultimate security without sacrificing usability. And if you're looking for a battle-tested, uncompromising cold storage, the Cold Card MK4 is your go-to with PSPT signing, an industrial-grade secure element, and USB-C. It's the perfect blend of security and convenience. Both devices are, of course, 100% Bitcoin only, open source, and built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. Secure your Bitcoin the right way with the Cold Card Q and the MK4. Head over to coldcard.com today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 5% off anything on the store.
All right, everybody, we are back. This is Opti, and the beautiful part about Opti is that he's holding a cold card Q in his hands right now. We were talking about self-custody. This is the best device to take self-custody with. Use promo code SIMPLY to get 5% off anything on the cold card store. This is the best Bitcoin hardware wallet on the market. You can get the MK4 or the cold card Q. They make taking Bitcoin into self-custody incredibly easy without sacrificing security. Get your device today. Go to coldcard.com, use promo code SIMPLY. You get 5% off anything on the Cold Card store. All right, everybody,
wait, Nico, hold on. Or maybe not. I think the sale might still be on. Don't quote me on that one, guys. But
is it still 20%?
That's what Jacob said this morning. So, oh, that was yesterday. Maybe that was yesterday. My bad. I don't think it's on anymore. But you missed a sale. Go use our promo code and get 5% off.
Absolutely, 100%. All right, everybody, let's get to today's news. So we're going to be talking about Coinbase, BlackRock, paper Bitcoin, spot ETF rumors. So let's get into the thick of things. Coinbase is America's largest crypto exchange, and BlackRock, the world's premier asset manager, have found themselves rooted in a new conspiracy theory. Skeptics are spreading unsubstantiated rumors that Coinbase may actually be buying the real Bitcoin requested by ETF funds, but instead issuing what they call paper Bitcoin IOUs. These rumors spread far enough on social media platforms to warrant a response from Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong. All ETF mints and burns will process ultimately settle on chain. It goes on to say, but conspiracy theories got new ammo when BlackRock filed an amendment to its ETF registration with the SEC that requires Coinbase to release Bitcoin to the asset manager within 12 hours of notice when customers buy shares of its Bitcoin ETF product. It says, quote, this isn't like FTX where you just throw up an exchange out of nowhere and some buffoon is running it from a Bahama penthouse. I mean, then why did BlackRock change the ETF? And the breaking news of today is, why did BlackRock decide to move at least some of its Bitcoin to a new custodian? So here's the breaking news. BlackRock has a new Bitcoin custodian besides Coinbase. It goes on to say the world's largest asset manager added Anchorage Digital Bank as the custodian of its Bitcoin holdings on April 7th. Since the crypto exchange Coinbase is already the primary custodian of BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF, Anchorage will be the trust's additional custodian. The asset manager has entered into a custodian services agreement with Anchorage as per its Form AK filing with the SEC. BlackRock will not move any Bitcoin to Anchorage immediately, the asset manager confirmed as per the agreement. Anchorage is required to keep all of its private keys associated with BlackRock's ETF, Bitcoin, its holdings in cold storage. Cold storage refers to storage private keys offline, away from the internet, to protect them from hacks, scams, malware, and other online threats. The agreement also requires Anchorage to maintain insurance policies and coverage. BlackRock said it took the decision to add Anchorage as a secondary custodian of its iBit holdings as part of its ongoing risk management approach due to the ongoing size of the trust. Anchorage Digital Bank is a federally chartered crypto bank that received approval from the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency in 2021. In September 2024, entered into agreement to offer custody to ARK's 21 shares Bitcoin ETF. Most Bitcoin ETF issuers have chosen Coinbase as their custodian. So, I mean, I think this is a great thing. I think this is a step in the right direction. Does it fix everything? No. Obviously, you'd want all these ETFs, all these institutions, all these publicly traded companies taking self-custody of their Bitcoin. But I guess there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. You know, Jack Dorsey has done an incredible job kind of releasing a lot of the kind of self-custody solutions, making them open source, so making it easy for a lot of these companies to adopt them. But you know, it seems like you know.
Looks like we lost Nico to the Puerto Rican power surges. Hopefully, I'm not cutting him off. Am I cutting him off? Is he back? Nico, are you back? Yeah, you're back. All right, dude, this power and where Nico is absolutely
Puerto Rican internet, bro. Yeah, man. God damn it. I don't know why it's so spotty. It sucks. The power, just anyhow. Okay. What are your thoughts on this, bro?
Well, I mean, I've been saying this for, there's a couple of thoughts here. First of all, obviously, as Bitcoiners, ever since the ETF has kind of, hit the market, we've all been wondering, is there a lot of paper Bitcoin out there? Obviously, that's kind of the leading consensus or the leading conspiracy theory, whatever you want to call it right now, that there is more paper Bitcoin in the space. We've obviously seen this scenario play out in the past, and even Eric Balchunas kind of mentioned it in that earlier report about FTX. Now, I've been a little lenient on Coinbase in the sense that I don't think they do something this dumb as to issue more paper Bitcoin than they actually hold Bitcoin. But there is a very good case to claim that Coinbase probably doesn't have all the Bitcoin that they claim they do. They probably have enough cash to essentially acquire all the Bitcoin they have, which is a very interesting little wrinkle here. But I think this is a very good thing. Obviously, there's a lot of people that don't like BlackRock. When BlackRock kind of came into Bitcoin, it was one of those things where it's like, okay, like Uncle Larry pump our bags, but on the backside, like you can make a case that BlackRock is behind a lot of the bad things in the world. So it's kind of a double-edged sword here. And obviously, I think this is good for any of the ETFs. I think they should all be diversifying their Bitcoin custody. You don't want it all in one honeypot, whether it's Coinbase or anyone else, because then that just makes it a very big treasure for people to hack. But I think this is great. I think this is very great. And of course, like, I don't think Coinbase nor BlackRock would be dumb enough to issue more paper than their Bitcoin. I know they could get greedy and what's the saying, ahead of their skis here. But if Coinbase did blow up and have more paper Bitcoin than Bitcoin, that would be extremely bad for this whole space. So I don't want this to happen at all. I think it's very, very important that ETF custodians, or rather the ETF issuers, do have various custodians. They diversify who custodies their Bitcoin. I think this is extremely good. But in general, I don't think BlackRock is going to necessarily kill the golden goose here. This is the best performing ETF ever. I don't think they're going to do anything, at least this early, to mess up that golden goose. And Bitcoin is a totally different paradigm. So on the one hand, this is very good. And on the flip side of the coin, I think it would be extremely detrimental if we did find out that this was like the canary in the coal mine and they're leaving Coinbase because they know something we don't know. But, this is a great move. I'm applauding this move. Obviously, we would probably want to see a lot more transparency from BlackRock or all of these ETF issuers so that we could see, like a proof of reserves type scenario. But I think this is great. And I don't think, as much as Brian Armstrong does get hate, and I've been saying, he's the enemy of Bitcoin for a long time, I do think he's a Bitcoiner, and I don't think he's going to mess this move up. You could argue he already kind of messed up in the past by not acquiring as much Bitcoin as Michael Saylor. So I think this is great. I don't think there's necessarily anything nefarious going on in the back end. But what do we know? We're just seeing the data come out that, hey, BlackRock is diversifying their custodians. This is awesome.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's definitely some good news to this for sure. You want more custodians. You don't want ideally you want more individuals taking self-custody. Let's just be blunt here. Because that's the truth. But I mean, I think this is better than nothing, to say the least. So anyways, guys, we're going to get to the culture segment. We still have a lot to talk about. We're going to be right back in just a second. Smash the like button if you guys are enjoying today's live stream. We're at 2,500 live viewers. We will be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at Hive Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com.
Need liquidity without having to sell your Bitcoin? For more than 6 years now, Ledn has been the trusted choice for Bitcoin-backed lending with transparency, security, and trust at their core. I absolutely love these guys, and I personally have not only an account with them, but also a loan. And some of the key features that I love about Ledn is the fact that there are no monthly payments. You pay at the end of the term. You also have the ability to roll over the loan as well, and you can pay it back whenever you want. Essentially, what they do is that they help their clients unlock the liquidity of their BTC, allowing you to hodl while still accessing the wealth of your Bitcoin. They've been battle tested with their focus on transparency, security, and trust, allowing them to build a proven track record of client success and security, helping tens of thousands of clients harness the value of their digital assets with confidence and peace of mind. Learn more about what your BTC can do for you. Check out ledn.io today.
All right, everybody, we are back. Opti, what are we going to talk about during the culture
here we
segment
go.
today?
So we've been making the case, and a lot of Bitcoiners have been making the case as well, that we are seeing a power struggle in the U.S. right now. The Trump administration and the Treasury fighting Jay Powell and the Fed. And the struggle we're seeing is essentially they're trying to rein in the Fed. And we've been seeing a lot of this happen lately. Here's a tweet or a truth social post, whatever you guys call it, on April 4th from Donald Trump. This is from Twitter because I can find the same one. He posts a lot. Anyways, Donald Trump on Truth Social post, April 4th, 2025. This would be a perfect time for Fed Chairman Jerome Powell to cut interest rates. He is always late, but he can now change his image and quickly. Energy prices are down, interest rates are down, inflation is down, even eggs are down 69%, lol, and jobs are up all within 2 months. A big win for America. Cut interest rates, Jerome, and stop playing politics. Now, talking about politics, we did get this coming out yesterday that Trump is asking the Supreme Court to let him fire top agency officials. And here, just the summary. President Donald Trump has asked the U.S. Supreme Court to allow him to immediately fire top officials at 2 independent agencies. The case is testing a 90-year-old Supreme Court ruling that lets Congress shield high-ranking officials from being fired by the president. The outcome could determine whether Trump has the power to fire Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, and could also impact the job security of other agency officials. So I think that theory now is, I guess, a fact that there is a war going on between the Treasury and the Federal Reserve, which I think would be a great thing for everyone around the world. You know, we always say, and the Fed, we've been playing you clips about Trump mentioning 1913. What happened in 1913? The creation of the Federal Reserve. We've been playing you the clip of Elon Musk saying his favorite thing to say is end the Fed. So I think that's no longer necessarily a theory. I think we can very clearly say there is a power struggle. Whether you think what Scott Bessent is doing is planned or by accident, whether they're playing a game of chicken, you are starting to see that this game is playing out. Is everything going by plan? Who knows? But this is where we are right now. I think this is a complete fact at this point. Now, moving forward, like I said earlier, we are getting inflation numbers today, and Trump this morning tweeted, just out, inflation is down, in all caps. So let's look at some of this stuff. We have Donald Trump Jr. also saying, breaking, inflation drops to 2.4% for the month of March, lower than the expected 2.5%, and core CPI inflation falls below 3%, the lowest since March 2021. Promises made, promises kept. And here you can see a little chart from CNN. And going further, David Sachs, the crypto czar, time for a rate cut. Obviously, we'll see next week what Jay Powell does. I think we're all in anticipation. Well, us Bitcoiners are just kind of chilling and hanging out. It's just going to make for some more fun and some fireworks. But everyone that's watching macro markets, or the macro global markets right now, are essentially waiting to see what Jay Powell is going to do. Is he going to cut rates? Is he going to keep them normal? I doubt he'll raise them. But anyways, as a Bitcoiner, you know, we have a huge problem with the CPI. It is manipulated data. We constantly talk about it. We constantly show that, hey, those numbers are probably not real. Well, I was trying to search up for you guys, and I have shadow stats here, but it's not updated. So this one's just in 2023. But if you were using shadow stats, we've been using this site on the show for a long time. You'll know that there is the actual inflation and then the number that they roll out in front of you, which is CPI. And again, this is old data. I couldn't find the newest data for you guys, but on the street, the rumor, or rather the consensus and kind of like the unspoken truth here is that CPI or inflation is a lot higher than the actual CPI numbers they roll out. And here in the past, you can see kind of the difference. Arguably, it could be, two times higher than what it is. But looking at truthflation, which is like the best thing I can do right now to get you guys what the real inflation rates are. They tweeted this morning, CPI, today is CPI day. We expect an inflation of 2.5%, while the market expects a inflation rate of 2.6%. So, technically it is down, I suppose. And if you go to the website, you can see that the year-on-year change updating daily of the real inflation rate is 1.34%. Let's see what it says here, or 1.4% as of April 8th. That sounds really good. We're seeing, maybe if you believe the official narrative, inflation got under that 2% rate that they've been working for, which, as David Sachs is saying, it's a good time for Jay Powell to cut rates. Now, comparing this to Bitcoin, we bring this metric up to you guys constantly. The realized monetary inflation for Bitcoin is 0.87%. So even if the inflation rate of dollars is, under 2% or roughly around 2%, Bitcoin is still the strongest, hardest, best money, period. This is where you should be storing your value. If you are storing your wealth in dollars or even treasuries, you are getting absolutely wrecked, as Parker Lewis laid out in this tweet this morning as well. People who distinguish between U.S. treasuries as a reserve asset and the dollar as a reserve currency are also wrong. Any currency is an asset. People hold treasuries rather than dollars because they have a nominal yield in dollars viewed as, quote, riskless. But that isn't true, as demonstrated by losses suffered by long-term treasury holders over the past 3 years. The dollar has stored value better than treasuries, and both have lost value. And this is the crux. And I think this is a good way of summing and putting a bow tie on everything we've been saying today. The market is figuring this out, and that's a problem for the Fed, that your dollars, your treasuries, whatever it is losing value. And there is something better. And this is why the Scott Bessent news, or rather his hinting towards Bitcoin being the best store of value, is very interesting, because it does seem like the market is figuring out that, hey, if you are holding treasuries or fiat dollars, you are losing value year over year. And, you guys have been yelling at me about memes on here, so I had to put one in here for you guys. Shouts out to our boy, Big Sean Harris, and to you, Sean, it was good to see you in Dallas. We have a classic meme. Which way, Western man? You have Lid Alden here. Taps Mike, clears throats. Nothing is stopping this train. And then we have Anthony Pompolano on the right side, which is the fear and nightmare scenario. March CPI just fell to 2.4%. Inflation is falling off a cliff. So which way, Western man? Is the CPI numbers correct? Is nothing stopping this train? We all know where this all ends up at. They have to inject liquidity into the system. The system is running on fumes. As Larry Lepard has been saying ever since his book came out, the big print is on its way. Do we know when? Not necessarily. Are we getting closer to the big print happening after what we saw over the weekend and this week? It is looking very likely that we are getting closer to the big print. And as we constantly cover, the more they print dollars, the higher Bitcoin price will go, or the more they print fiat, the more liquidity that gets injected into the system, the more Bitcoin's going to go up. So which way, Western man? Do you want to hold something that loses value year over year, or do you want to hold something that gets stronger year over year and stores your wealth better than anything else? So, they can roll out these official CPI numbers, or quote unquote official CPI numbers. But as we all know, in Bitcoin, the only real data, the only real information, the only signal in the system right now is what's going on Bitcoin. The time chain itself, the Bitcoin quote unquote blockchain, is the only real data that you can base your reality off of. It's the only real measure of value that we have. Everything else is manipulated. Everything else is fake. It sounds good on paper. Trump's, boasting about inflation being down. have fun with your fiat. I'm storing my wealth in Bitcoin. You should too. This is the way. This is how you make sure and ensure you succeed in this global trade war, this new digital reality we find ourselves in. There is digital scarcity, and you need to buy some now. You need to store your wealth in it today. This is the only way to win. Anyways, yeah, as high. Wait, hold on. Sorry. You guys went a little faster. Higher callings, it's a scam, the whole narrative. Yes, buy Bitcoin, store Bitcoin, take it into custody. The printers are destined to come.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, dude, first of all, great coverage. I agree. It reminds me of that meme of Powell, like from like Game of Thrones, like the printer is coming. Yeah, that's my take on all this. That's my 2 cents.
Can we find that one Jay Powell meme with like anime music and he's turning on the money printer? This is coming.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
That might not be that might give us a copyright hit on here, so maybe we don't.
The music will, but we could definitely post the video. But anyhow, guys, if you guys enjoyed today's show, make sure to smash that like button. Really appreciate y'all's support. We wouldn't be here without you. I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, the Bitcoin conference. It's happening in Vegas. It's coming May 27th through the 29th at the Venetian Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. May 27th through the 29th. Embrace game theory. Scan the QR code. Check the link in the video description. Use promo code SIMPLY to get 10% off anything anything on the Bitcoin conference, the Bitcoin conference tickets. The entire Simply Bitcoin crew will be there. We will have a booth. We hope to see you guys in Las Vegas, Nevada. Again, if you guys enjoyed today's show, make sure to smash that like button. Consider subscribing if you feel like we provided you value. I'm your host, Nico. This is April 10th, 2025. This is my legendary co-host, Optimus Fields. We're Simply Bitcoin. We'll see you guys tomorrow for a brand new episode. Take care, everybody.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.